Okay, and we are live once again with Victor Escalante live. We have Jose Monterrosa, who is joining us with Imagina Communications, and Sineria from Comerica. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Victor, for having us again here in your show.
If it's not
Thank
one thing, it's
you.
another when it comes to technology.
Okay.
The
Right.
last time that we tried to do it, we had some technical problems, but we're back here.
We're
Okay,
back. Yes.
Jose, why don't you go ahead and do a recap of what we discussed the last time? Because there was so much information, valuable information. Let me tell you guys that I even had some clients who are small business owners that watched the recorded broadcast to learn something about securing financing for their small business. So that we provided some very valuable information for our listeners. So thank you guys. So go ahead and
Absolutely.
take it away.
Yeah.
Jose.
So last time we were talking about lending money to small businesses and how primarily how those companies that are looking for that extra funds to grow their businesses go through different stages, right? And what is that right stage for that business to take that next step from going to from beginning someone that is working out of his house or a garage, and then moving on and getting a new space, expanding their operation. When do they become, I guess, have access to that extra funds from an entity such a bank to continue that growth through time? And for that, we have Sineria back again.
Thank you. Thank you both, Victor and Jose, for having me on. It's truly a pleasure, even to be asked a second time. Sineria Ordóñez, Vice President of External Affairs for South Texas and the National Hispanic Business Development Manager. So just to get into, I think that question, the probing question of when should I engage the bank? What we always say is that you want a banker, you want to start building that relationship before you need it. And that is, I think that last time what we talked about is what does it look like? What do lenders look like or look for when it comes to credit worthiness and accessing capital? So the things to know is, lenders want to know, do you pay your bills on time? Do you stay within your budget? Is your income steady enough to repay the loan? Is your business already running and making money? And have you demonstrated stability in the work in the business that you're in? And that takes time. We know that entrepreneurship is a long-term journey, and so these are the elements, these are the questions that we always tell our entrepreneurs, our business owners, to keep in mind. The cash flow, do you have profit and loss statements within 3 years? And again, that this is the importance of getting connected with a banker, with a small business relationship manager, so that they can guide you and tell you, you want to make sure that you're asking those questions before you hit that time when you need that access to capital to continue that growth or the new venture that you're seeking out.
So in a way, it sounds like, get ready for that next stage, right? So
Yes.
before you get there, you need to set up things. You need to formalize your business in such a way that you become more, I guess, having an easier access to those funds that can be accessed through a bank such as Comerica Bank.
Yes, you want, sometimes if a small business owner is going to their bank and they're saying, hey, we need some type of access, we want to have engaged this conversation of what this accessing capital look like. The thing is that you have to make sure that you understand what you need to be prepared. And that is always not immediate. That's where developing that relationship with your banker is crucial, is important, because they are part of that building steps to the things that you need so that you can get ready.
And Sineria, you attended that event last week at the Ion, and one of the guests there was I guess a well-known business owner in the Houston area. You know this person, right? Uh,
Yes.
and
And
she talked about this example of trying to get those extra funds, but one way it didn't work, And then she tried another way, and that another way, in a way, also helped the fact that she was part of this very reputable network, and that facilitated the access to those extra funds. Can you talk a little bit more about her experience, and is this a common thing about among small businesses?
Yes, and I will have, I will say this is her story and
Right.
this is not mine. All I can tell you is that on the side is the struggle of
Right.
our small businesses, that you could be bringing some revenue and, find yourself like COVID and PPP loans and not knowing how to access them, or some of our businesses wanting to access some of those PPP loans. However, they didn't have that financial structure that went with it. And those that didn't know how to access some of those grant and loans. Well, for a lot of our businesses, and I think this was her case, is that she was getting continuous no's. And I think she even tried her bank, and for her, she felt her business was growing, she was bringing in revenue, but she was still not getting the answer she wanted. And I think that for us is, initially when I started and said, hey, you want to build a relationship with your banker before you need one. That's a prime example of making sure that you're connecting with the bankers and saying, hey, I have a small business. Do you have a small business relationship manager assigned? And that, again, not only in preparation, but when things like COVID happen and you're wanting to access those PPP loans, that they were your guiding source, advocates inside of the bank to help you find those additional sources. And it's harder when you don't have that relationship with your banker. So that's what we initially very much come in and advocate to our businesses, that you want to establish that right away before you need them.
Awesome.
And now we want to welcome Zach Galindo, who is an actual case study of the topic that we are discussing, how to secure funding for your small business. Because if you didn't get a chance to hear his story on my podcast, Latinos Who Thrive, it is truly a must listen, because this is a story of entrepreneurship and the new generation of Latinos that are really the future of America, because these are hungry, ambitious, educated, and I'm going to throw a word that I heard at a recent young conference of Latinos, chingones, okay? Not my word. That's
I like it.
They used.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting. We live in very exciting times to see this new generation of Latinos who are forging ahead, and they are trailblazers in every field of American life, in politics, in business, in education, healthcare, you name it. And Latinos are now forged to be the majority contributing element of all these different areas in society. So, Zach, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, as far as your business that you started on a shoestring and where you are today, because we're going to use your story as a case study on the struggles of a small business securing capital for growth.
Yeah. So I started off, I've been a barber for almost 20 years. And so I think when you're a barber, one of your aspirations is to someday open up your own business, your own barbershop. And so when I did that almost 8 years ago, I used pretty much all just my savings. I didn't try to get any loans or anything like that. I used my savings. Within a year and a half, 2 years, we outgrew that space. We ended up finding a second location to open up, self-financed that one as well. And fast forward to now, 8 years in, we've got 2 locations, 32 barbers across both locations. We also opened up a coffee shop right next to one of the barber shops. So we kind of expanded within the brand. And I think it was fitting when I came in right now because I heard you guys talking about securing financing and all that. And I'm kind of at a position to where I just experienced something similar. So let me explain to you guys what we've got going on. So I'm expanding both of the locations that I've had. Our contracts came up with the original lease, and we've grown since. And so what we originally started with just didn't make sense for us. We needed more space. We needed more room for everything that we have going on. And so for the expansion, the way that I was able to structure our contracts is that the landlord sets a certain amount that they reimburse us for to do the construction. So as a business owner, I was looking for ways to be able to tap into some capital to where I didn't have to touch the cash flow that I have from my accounts. And it was something to where the landlord, once all the construction was done, within less than a year time frame, they would reimburse me for the majority of it. There would be some that would be out of pocket cost. But the struggle that I kind of ran into, and it was something that Sineria was talking about, is that I have a history with my bank as far as I've been with them for the whole 8 years that I've owned a business. I've got, good cash flow through there. I've got multiple accounts. But when it came time for me to say, hey, I need either a line of credit or I need a loan so that I can cover this construction, it was almost impossible for me to get financing. And I had to look elsewhere other than my bank. And so I remember feeling like, man, I've been using this bank for a while. I've got a ton of accounts with them. Literally my whole life is with them. I've got, volume coming through all of these accounts. Yet when I need a line of credit or when I need some capital so that I can expand, it's impossible. And so I can relate to what you were talking about with that. And part of it is I didn't have a relationship with a commercial banker. So whenever I would go to the bank, I was going to the retail side and they would say, okay, well, here's the paperwork, see if you qualify. And it's like, well, based on these terms, either the amount that I was asking for was too little for what program they had, or whatever credit line program that they had, there were a lot of different criteria that I wouldn't meet based on what they had there, right? And those are pretty much my only options, other than, getting a conventional loan and having to put 20% down and things like that, which I was trying to not have to do if I didn't have to. And so I know that there's a lot of people that are in my similar situation where they say, hey, I've got a business, we're growing, we're reinvesting back into the business. But there's times where we have opportunities present themselves that we want to be able to tap into capital so that we don't have to use the cash flow that we have to do it. And so I feel like I jumped in kind of right on time when you guys were talking about that.
The universe aligned for you, Zach.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So, Sineria, why don't you go ahead and make some general comments about Zach's commentary, and then we'll get into the other two questions, the big questions about our presentation, and then maybe we can do a summary wrap-up.
Yeah. Zach, you brought up that distinction that you go to a bank, maybe you go to the retail space as opposed to going to an assigned relationship manager. And that's the difference, because there's only so much on the application that we know about you. But again, the importance to that building that relationship is that they're starting to know you. They're seeing, they keep talking to you. They're looking at your business plan. They're matching that with what your cash flow is, with what your financial structure is. And then, that relationship manager becomes your internal advocate, which says a lot more than maybe what's on the application. And so that's why for us, when we are connecting the human capital at Comerica Bank, the expertise with the community, is to have these specific conversations to say, have you, don't just go to a retail space. Have you talked to, or have you been assigned a relationship manager? What does that look like? Sometimes they can collaborate with other units within the bank to see what might be an opportunity. And, the world of banking, and as I have been in it, it's not as simple. You don't just have a retail space. No tienes solo una sucursal. You have commercial banker, you have wealth, private wealth, and you have all these other arrays and lines of business in the bank. And so sometimes that relationship manager may be able to tap into other sources within the bank. Again, and I think the summary of last conversation is that you're in your long-term journey. I think I broke it down into 4 levels for you as to where you are as a small business. And that startup, that early stage, just like Saik mentioned, you're putting a lot of your money in, and you're also maybe borrowing from friends or family. Then you have the 3rd level, which is the maturity level, and the established. Once you're established, it could range where you are, that you're building out, that you're putting the deposits in your business, that then a lender can come and say, okay, reviewing, and are able to help best, I guess, connect you with some of those opportunities. But again, I'm not, my role is in the community to make sure that our businesses have the information that they need so that they feel that they are equipped and ready. And if at any point, any additional questions into that 101, the specifics, that's something that I connect them with the bankers who are the true experts in what it looks like on that lender. So prepping, making sure you're ready, sometimes it's a 2-3 year turnaround time in working and understanding what the bank needs, so that you can still keep your business afloat and know what your best options would be down the line.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of people in the community are just not aware that, because most of the time you start a business and you're really just kind of figuring stuff out, right? Like you're not really thinking about, I need to go and find a commercial banker, right? Like you're like, all right, I gotta get this thing off the ground. But looking back now, had I built a relationship 8 years ago, that's 8 years of building a relationship and then seeing, all the stuff that we've done. And so I wish that I would have known that going in now. And even at the part where I'm at now, I was finally put in contact with somebody that does handle that. And we're starting to build that relationship and starting to get to know each other and all those things. And so I think it's important for people to even know that that's kind of the first step in, as you're building your business, is establishing a relationship with whatever bank it is that's on the commercial side that's going to help you out. Because there were some things that I didn't know were even options for me until I started speaking with the commercial side. And so I definitely think that awareness is a big thing.
Okay.
I guess following up on that comment that Zach made, Sineria, what are the things that can be done to close that gap, right, in time, for someone to not spend 8 years, 7 years, 5 years trying to figure out things with a bank?
I realized I didn't take myself off mute. And I think that that's also part of the conversation that we discussed last time. What are other funding resources as you are trying to scale? And so good options are SBA loans. You have different types of SBA loans, 7A, 504. You have SBA Express and Veterans programs. A lot of times, even with the building of the relationship with the banker, you get to kind of understand what those SBA programs are. A lot of the programming that we have actually done with our community, business entrepreneur community, has been inviting the SBA as well into the conversations, or they are there at events, so that they can also directly talk to the community about what their programming is. The other alternative sources of funding is the community development financial institutions, and those are the CDFIs. So they're considered nonprofit funding organizations, and they provide business mentoring, finance, technical assistance as well at that community level. And we know that that's what is also enhances the chance of a business being bank ready, being ready for that next stage. For borrowers who may not qualify for traditional loans, CDFIs are a good source. And many lenders have special programs, again, for businesses that would help a lot of the businesses who may have not otherwise not received the support that they need. So those are some specialty. The other are other nonprofits that are maybe not CDFIs, but may provide programming that helps you look through financial structure, marketing, and they bring in and they have collaboration with others. So chambers are also another source of additional, in terms of information that you can gather. You have just up top of mind, you have women business entrepreneurship, helping women be women certified. You have empresarios Latino. There's just a lot of, sorry, I'm not doing justice to all the services that might be available for our small businesses. You have the City of Houston, OBO, Office of Business Opportunities as well, not also to connect, not only with providing services, but also helping our small businesses tap into City of Houston potential contract opportunities. The conversation on helping our businesses grow is tied with how do we help them access to contracts that are going to lead to greater things for them. Supplier diversity is another type of conversation. But if it helps, I gave you an array of some things that are in the community.
I wanted to ask. I'm sorry. I wanted to ask for just in my situation specific for people that are DACA status that can't put that they're a citizen on the applications. That was a struggle for me in trying to secure funding at times. I know that the SBA ended up changing it when they did the PPP, because normally it was a question that was asked on the application whether you were a citizen or a resident. And they changed it for PPP, and I was able to get mine during that time because they changed it. And if I remember correctly, they changed it the day before it actually went live. It was literally the last minute, and it allowed us to do it. But for people that are in that situation, are those the options that you mentioned? Are there any constraints, I guess, for people that are on DACA that have legal presence here but can't say that they're residents or citizens?
Yes, that's thank you for that question. And that's a light question. That's obviously one that you want to talk to a specific expert. So what I'm sharing today is just regular, I think, general information of how to cultivate that. But what I will tell you is that for most of the banks, as long as you have an ITIN number, that number registered through the IRS, and that you may be in the state of Texas, have some kind of picture ID and that ITIN number, that is enough to open an account. But again, you have to take it case by case and talk to that bank and see what they're able to accept. But just a general, your ITIN, we encourage businesses and individuals that if you are not, you find yourself in a different status, not under a resident or a citizenship, that you register under the IRS. You can just go to the irs.gov, and then there's the form that you have to fill for your ITIN number, and then talk to your bank about what that looks like and what they are able, I guess, what they need in opening up accounts, and also layer in on assistance or lending. So that's case by case. Sorry, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but those are some general, if it helps, on how you can make sure you're registered.
And time is running away from us because we have so much information to share. Sineria, what advice would you give entrepreneurs and small business owners? And before you answer that question, I want to give the context to Zach's story. Zach, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you're projected to have in revenues by year's end?
Yeah, so last year we broke the 2 million mark. We're projecting to 2.5, 2.6 million in revenue for this year.
Okay. Now, how long have you been in business?
8 years.
Okay, so 8 years. Do the math. 2.5 million in 8 years, just constant hustle and grind, without the necessary capital to grow. And so, Sineria, give us an assessment, just general terms, because I know that it can get very technical. Just in general terms, what advice would you give Zach?
I think, first of all, Zach.
I'm going to call you.
Can you hear me?
Hang up.
Okay. Yes. Zach, first of all, congratulations for staying the course, for believing in your ability. I think for staying the course to, despite maybe not having some access immediately to some capital, that you have a vision. And I think que toma mucho valor, a lot of courage to stay. This is what we've often said, entrepreneurship is a long-term journey. And you're providing a service, a product that is unique that only you can deliver on. And anytime that you stay that course, we are proud. We feel that you are a prime example for others to not give up. You have, I think that when it comes to access to capital, that within that 8 years, you have been able to grow and learn and know what to tap into. And imagine what that looks like if you were to give that back to other small businesses, and they can do it in 4 years instead of 8. And when we are able to share our knowledge, our wisdom, our entrepreneurship wisdom, and pass it on to other community members and the business community overall, then we're able to help them, position them to be much better off as well. So thank you for that. I encourage you to continue telling your story. I encourage you to be connected with some of the entrepreneurship opportunities and programs that are taking place in the community, because when I said at the beginning, it could take up to 10 years depending on the business, on where you are on your course, hitting that maturity level, that established level. It doesn't happen in 1 year. It doesn't happen in 2 years. It takes a lot of work and dedication that obviously you have shown and proven that can be done. Así que this is not a time for us to give up. This is a time for us to continue, but also access the resources in the community for free that you can tap into to stay connected, to get that network. And if anything, build that relationship with the banker that you need now. And as you shared, not 8 years ago, right? 8 years ago, or even 7, 6, what that may have looked like for you and your business. So those, I think, are the key points that I kind of hope to leave everyone with, and nuggets of aprendizaje, of some learning moments.
Zach, you get to ask the last question, so make it count.
Mhm.
The last question, okay. I think for the Latino community, what trends are you seeing? Is Hispanic owned businesses, are they growing like I'm hearing? Are they active? Are they do you see people getting loans, building businesses? What's the outlook on that, on the Latino community as far as business owners?
Yes, the outlook on the Latino Hispanic small businesses, they're the fastest growing. The segment is women. Latina women business owners are the fastest growing. And so if you look at all the ballpark, donde están los Latinos, and I think that comes naturally, the resilience aspect of our small businesses. I think it also is passed on, how our parents, coming from the Latin American countries that they were from, and then doing sus puestitos, their little businesses, and then transferring that to here, but also the sense of autonomy, the sense of independence that you get when you're a small business owner. And that is very natural for our Latino community to say, hey, we're on. This is what we do. We know we can share this with others, and that sense of independence is a driver. So the numbers and the data is showing that Latino businesses are opening much faster, and women mucho más. And in par with that, we're also seeing a high number of Latina women who are finishing up their 4-year degrees. So the support, what that might look like, and to ensure that we are coming back, which is part of the role that I serve on the National Hispanic Business Development, is that we understand what the needs of our Hispanic, Latino small businesses are, and to ensure that we have the avenue, the resource, the programming, and I think the products and services that that fits the needs of the community that we aim to serve. And in this case, you're going to see a lot more. And I mean, in this just in the state of Texas, and Jose, you two have shared this piece of information that just in the state of Texas, Latinos are the number one, minority group segment group. And
Right.
so what does that look like in the shaping, and what would that look like with the entrepreneurship landscape dentro de Texas, inside of Texas? I think it's a good place to be, but we need a lot more understanding of what it means to be a Latino Hispanic entrepreneur in the United States.
Sineria, we're going to have to leave it there. You have an open invitation to come back and talk to us about any kind of initiatives that are geared for Latinos in the general Houston area, because I know there from time to time there's news about different conferences or different programs or different avenues that entrepreneurs can pursue. And Zach, I want to invite you to come back next week, because we're going to give you some free marketing advice, because Jose Monterrosa is the owner of Imagina Communications, and he is a longtime marketer of a lot of famous brands. He once worked for one of the largest ad agencies in the country that
Right.
that promoted Latino brands. So you're going to get a consultation worth several $100s worth, because Jose, I might say that he built his business without any marketing plan, without any strategic branding and marketing plan. Just sheer hustle. Just build it as you go. So imagine what he can do having your expert knowledge.
Yeah, and the last slide was about what advice can you give to business owners, right? And that, to me, it comes down to having a business coach. If you want to close that gap in time and knowledge, having that person or that group of persons, that the people that can actually guide you, and even having like an advisory board, extremely helpful. There are many things that we don't know, and we don't want to go back to school and try to learn stuff that we're not supposed to be learning. So might as well just use those resources and close that gap in time for continued growth.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll be here. I appreciate the invite.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today. And that's all for today, friends. And we will see you next week, where Zach is going to be joining us. And you can join us with your marketing questions on how to crush it and grow your business. Until next time, so long, guys.
Adios. Thank you.
Bye.
Gracias.